Hey there. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the best practices for composite models 1.0. I can't wait to get into this topic. It's something I'm truly psyched about. Let's head over to it. All right, so when we're talking about best practices with composite models, as Marco Russo over at SQL BI said, we're going to be learning about how the best way to handle this stuff over the next 20 years because this is truly revolutionary. This is a 1.0 version of best practices for all of you guys who are working with composite models so you can best understand some of the gotchas, some of the things that we can identify right at the onset that you're going to want to do, things you're going to want to avoid, and just generally get started on the right foot. This is composite models is truly a transfigurative thing when it comes to Power BI and analytical models. Okay, so we were working with electricity, but it was all coal-fired electrical plants, right? It was real easy to burn that coal, and we understood how that worked. That's how we got our electricity. Composite models is the equivalent of building in nuclear power plants. So we don't want you running around with plutonium in your pocket like those earlier pioneers where you're going to die 5 years from now from radiation poisoning. We want to avoid all that. So this is our 1.0 version of the best practices. I'm going to say we know of some deficiencies inside of the solution right now. So the best practices I'm going to illustrate are going to be best practices for you and for enterprise to implement. And any place there's a deficiency, we're going to be pushing back on Microsoft and saying, hey, Microsoft, get this stuff right. All right, let's get over to what are these best practices. Okay, now when we talk about composite models, there's some basics I want you to understand. Okay, we're talking about composite models where we have tabular model connecting to tabular model, right? These two models that are connecting together. This is something that we've never been able to do. Microsoft's calling it direct connect or live connect. I don't know, the naming's a little wonky. That may all get sorted out. But the whole point is we're now able to connect analytical universes together in a way that we've never been able to. Okay, so this is brand new territory for us. So we have lots of potential challenges in here that we need to deal with. This is not talking about composite models where we have an analytical model and then we have a piece that does a direct connect back to a data source. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit, but for the most part, when we talk about best practices, it's how do we connect these live models together, okay? And the different layers, and how do you do this, right? So we're talking about models together, not direct connect. Now, the other big thing that you need to know is presently, and I kind of pray that we stay this way, is that the layers only allowed to go 3 deep. In other words, you can connect a model and then you can create a composite model that connects to a model. You can then create a model that connects to the combination of A. You take A, you take B, you combine them. That's a composite model. You can then take C and combine it onto that new model, right? That was created, right? So you can kind of what they call chaining, right? You can go 3 deep. This creates a lot of potential issues here. So that's why this is one of the big basics that these best practices are built around addressing and managing. And like I said, let's hope that we don't go further than 3 deep. I think that's going to create a world of issues, but it's early in this entire thing. I could be wrong. Let's go check it out. Or let's go into the basics for the 3 levels. All right. Number 1. Basically, we're going to look at these in 3 different levels when it comes to using composite models. The first levels are all going to be based upon different subjects that we have. We're going to isolate them, and so you have those level 1 models that are complete and total when it talks about a given subject. For the most part, not always, but for the most part, we're going to be looking at having a singular fact table in each of the models. This allows for great distribution across different premium tenants. So you can have some smaller ones in a P1, a larger one in a P2, and bigger models inside of P3. So you can distribute your processing across all of these enterprise level 1 models. Okay. Now, level two, this is where we start to combine those enterprise models together, right? So we go from having discrete subjects, like you have finance, you have human resources, you have sales, right? To having departments who look at a number of those different subjects together into a conversation that they have, right? So those departments build out their connections and they create their composite model. Okay, so level one is just a basic model. Level two is your composite model. And then level three is the exciting part. That's where we start to give that true functionality out to your business analysts, out to the people who are doing self-exploration. And we say, okay, in level three, this is where we mash in SharePoint lists. We drop in some Excel files or CSVs and text files. Whatever you want, whatever you need to do in order to bring that all together to create that experience that you want. That's what we do inside level three. All right. Now some details on each of these levels. All right. Level one best practices. These are the enterprise data models. This is where you add in your row level security. This is where you create those super complex, difficult measures to do. You're going to be working inside these subject matter or models to minimize the number of fact tables. I think primarily in a model, you're going to have one fact table with dimensions out. This is going to fall into that and it's not even an 80-20 rule. I kind of have a 95-5% rule. Like, hey, a best practice means you do this 95% of the time. There's always an exception. Like 5% of the time, you go and do this other thing, okay? So 95% of the time, hopefully you have one model for a topic, and then you break those out by topics, okay? Sizing and whatnot will kind of dictate that, but generally speaking, it's one. Now here's the big deal. Here's the big piece that you need to have. You need to have strong conforming dimensions when you build out these models, right? So that the surrogate keys that you're going to use in one model can be used inside of another model. So those dimensions that you're using are identical from model to model to model, right? So if you have customer, which is going to be a conforming dimension between these models, it's the exact same dimension. You're not having a different degree of cardinality. You're not breaking any of this stuff up. It's the exact same one. This is why it's truly an enterprise model that we're talking about here, okay? Now, it is vitally important, if you're following this strategy, that your level one models never, ever, under no circumstances, ever allow for composite models at that first level. The reason being, if you ever suddenly introduce a composite model functionality, you break everything downstream of your users. So this is like big fireworks. Don't do it. You cannot do it for those enterprise models. Those have to be, those have to be all brought into place. Now you can, inside here is where I'm going to say you do, again, 95% or more of your composite models where you have direct connect back to your data source, right? Because that is tricky as all get out to get right and get to perform. Unless someone has a license for being able to do that, they should straight up, don't let them do it. Don't do it. Like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, like, it is exorbitantly difficult. This is not something you're going to knock out in like a sprint. I'll just add in a direct. No, it's hard. You have to do a lot of tuning. So it's one of those enterprise things that has to be done. So if you're going to do a direct connect back to like our source data system for detailed reporting, that should be inside the level one models, but never ever a direct connect to a live other tabular model, because it'll break all of your downstream models. Okay. Again, this is like the first swag, but I think this is key for a successful deployment, at least initially when it comes to composite models. All right. Level two. Level two best practices are where we start to bring these source system models together. Okay. Now there's some kind of we're going to go back and forth on this. There's one specific place where I'm going to talk about that we have to test out and figure out what's going to be best. But generally speaking, here's where you're going to bring all of your conformed dimensions and you're going to make your joins together. Now, when we do this, I don't know if it's going to be, its best practice is going to be to join from dimension to dimension, or, and I think this is more likely what's going to give you better performance, but you have to test this yourself. Do you connect that main dimension back to the fact table, right? So it's either because you're going to have one model, you're going to join with another model, right? Um, then you have to connect them. Do you connect it from dim to dim or dim to fact? My contention is dim to fact. If I'm wrong, leave a comment down below. If you see something different, let me know. I know some people are saying that this is one of the points where, oh, no, you get much better performance if you use treat as. Look in the query profiler, Microsoft sees a treat as. This is where I call out incorrect. This is where Microsoft needs to make that perform just as good, if not better, when we define a join inside of a composite model. That, my friends, is a defect inside of the composite models that we will need to get fixed. But that's okay. It's a miracle that we have this, so let's not look a gift horse in the mouse, right? Or mouth. Gift horse in a mouse. That's weird. All right, so big deal. Choose your primary model. Bring in your next model. Choose the primary dimensions that you're going to have, make those connections in, and then hide those secondary dimensions or those repeat dimensions inside the model so that the people who are consuming it don't get confused. Okay, so if you have a customer from model A and a customer from model B, hide that other customer. Okay, it's going to be really important to do that. Make sure that when you build out your measures, and I think I might have forgot to mention this in point 1, but all measures should go in the fact table. I know it was a best case and best practice to put all measures in a measures table. That got nixed. Thank you, Mr. Russo, for pointing out how and why we need to keep them on the fact tables, but that's becoming increasingly important here in these composite models. So any measure is going to be on the fact table that we bring them together. Now, if you end up needing to do cross model measures, here's where you create a measure table inside of your composite model and you put those measures in, okay? That's really important to do. Now, inside these level 2 models, we're going to really discourage using any of those ancillary ad hoc, Excel, CSVs, any of that stuff. You can do it technically, right? Like we've now started to break into that level 2 of composite models. So in for a penny, in for a pound, you might say, but don't, right? I'm just telling you right now, don't do it. Okay. So, this is going to be really important that these models perform, especially those level 1 models. And then as we get level 2, we're going to get these degrees of abstraction together. So we're going to really need to make sure that these perform. Okay. Now, if you find that you're not getting the performance that you need, you might end up needing to bring together these models and put them back into the level 1 and say, okay, these have to be brought together so that they're loaded and we don't have to deal with this stuff. But ideally, cross our fingers, the whole point of composite models is that we shouldn't have to do this. So tactically, you might have to merge them together and move them to level 1. But ideally, hopefully not, and we can get Microsoft to address any performance concerns that we run into. So that's my recommendation. All right. Okay. Level 3 best practices. Now, here's where we start getting nuts. All right. So this is, as I said before, Katie bar the door. This is where we're going to really take advantage of our composite models, where we're going to start bringing in Excel spreadsheets. We're going to start dropping in SharePoint lists. We're just going to start to get crazy when it comes to what we do with our tabular models. Now, a big thing you need to watch out for is that whatever you do inside of these level 3 models, you need to make sure that you're not blowing up those level 1 and level 2 upstream models that you're working on. You say, hey, Chris, how the heck am I going to blow that up? Well, that's simple. There's lots of things you can do when it comes to creating calculated tables inside of analysis services that will just blow up that consumption. So if you're looking at, hey, I want to get in and I want to make some of these computed tables so that I can do these things, or come up with some new measures, or I'm not getting the information I need, and I've read the books. It says I should create a computed table. I'm going to ask you to hold off. This is not the place to do a computer table. Those types of things should be pushed up to the people who own those level 1 and level 2 models. Have them do that work, okay? But other than that piece, for the most part, just big warning signs here. You do want to watch performance, but for the most part, this is where you do, all of that crazy other stuff. You need to have a new dimension that does some grouping, level 3. You need to bring in a SharePoint list that filters down to just a subset of your products, or a cohort that you're looking at when it comes to your salespeople, or an ad hoc team that you put together and you want to track. Boom, level 3 is the place for you. This is super exciting. I mean, all of this stuff is really exciting, but this is where we start to really expand our experience, expand and do the things that have always been, I got to send that up to the enterprise team, or I got to put it into the model, and it just becomes really cluttered. None of that anymore, okay? All of those like customized tables, all of those things are just little niche things that we need to add for a given experience inside of a report. Now we all do that inside of level 3 models. I am super excited about this. I've often commented upon how much I dislike the disconnected table experience, because not because it's not powerful, but because it's almost too powerful. And it's too necessary to have these disconnected tables to do crazy types of interactions inside your reports. That was all well and good if you're doing one model per one report, but if you're doing a centralized model with many reports, putting in these junk tables just cluttered up your model and made it a nightmare to manage. Here, enter composite models and enter into the capabilities of being able to just create those little custom tables inside your level 3 models. Oh, hallelujah. Can you hear the angels singing? This is just wonderful. This is where we do that stuff. Now I fully embrace and welcome these custom tables to create that little interactivity that you're looking for inside your Power BI reports. I'm so happy about this stuff. All right. Now, when it comes to implementation, you've got a lot that you need to run through. First step, and I'm going to do some videos on this. I'm going to run through actually doing this stuff for you guys so you can see it live and see what it takes to actually do this stuff. But first thing you're going to do is you're going to take those big honking enterprise models that you have, and you're going to chunk those puppies out into those level 1 models, okay? You're going to break those all apart, get those in, get those all distributed, and then next thing you're going to do is you're going to recombine them into level 2 models. I know. I already had them together. Why am I breaking them apart? It's for that downstream usability, that downstream types of expansions and extensions that you need to do. You're going to thank me for this. I'm 99% sure you're going to be really happy about this, okay? So you're going to break them apart. You're going to bring them back together. And then you're going to create enterprise workspaces for each of the 2 levels, okay? So level 1 models are going to go into that level 1 workspace, right? Again, we want to keep the focus on, especially on those level 1 models, can never, ever, under any circumstances, have another direct connect to a live model, right? Because it's going to break my level 3 stuff, and my level 3 is freaking magic, right? Then, for your level 2 models, you're going to create another workspace for those, and those you're going to start to bring those together for your different departments, okay? And then finally, when it comes to building reports, you only build your reports from a data set that's on top of a level 1 or more ideally a level 2 model. I'm gonna call out. You're gonna find you have a bad time, I think, if you're a report developer and you're always going against level 1 models. I just call it a sinking suspicion, call it a gut feeling that you're going to always want to point your stuff to that level 2 model, because I just have a gut suspicion that the level 1 models, which are the base entities, are never going to change. For your department, you're going to want to have some conform unique dimensions that are just special to you as a department in the level 2, even if it's just on a singular subject, okay? So call me crazy, call me nuts, but only, or like 80% of the time, build your reports and analytics off that level 2 model, and therefore you can bring in, do whatever you want in the given report. Inside the level 2 model, if your department has special things, they can bring it together there, and you don't have to worry about what's happening inside the level 1. All right? Awesome. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. This has been my 1.0 on best practices when it comes to composite models. I can't wait to see, what we do, where we go from here. If you think of anything else that we should be included, anything else that we should talk about, please leave a comment below, send me DMs. Let's have, actually, just leave comments, because we need to talk about this as a community. This is super important. So leave a comment below, or comment on Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever it is. Let's sort all this stuff out. And I can't wait to publish 1.1, 1.9, 2.3, all the further additions that we're going to have when it comes to learning and working with composite models. So thank you guys. Have a great day. Peace.